All right, guys, welcome back to the shack. As usual, in here cranking out some stuff, trying to get ready for the peach jam that's coming up, and I'm fixing to do some of these bamboo ink pens that I buy. These are just cheap Amazon bamboo ink pens. I'll drop a link down below if you're interested. But what I'm fixing to do here is I've got the WizMaker fired up. I've got my interchangeable jig kit, of course, is on the WizMaker, and I'm fixing to move you over to Lightburn and show you the process. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make a jig to hold a few of these pins, and then I'm just going to put a graphic on there, and I'm going to run a batch of these pins, flip them over, and do the other side using this jig that I've designed. Now the file is designed specifically for these pins. That way it holds them in there snug. I get consistency. So if you're interested in the file, of course, as always, I can put it in my Etsy shop, and I'll also show you the link to get these specific pins, and might save you a little bit of work. So let's move over to Lightburn and get this operation started. All right, guys, here we are in Lightburn, and since the last time I used the WizMaker, I have went in and calibrated my camera, so I've got my camera actually functioning properly now. And I've also put some new lights in the enclosure, got rid of the fluorescent or the older LED that was in there that caused it to flicker. So I hope that works out better for us. So luckily for me, I have in my art library, I have this Amazon bamboo pen shape already built and saved. This is kind of a process, but just for time's sake and for sake of the video, I have several other videos that demonstrate that process. So if that's something you're interested in, you can go check that out in one of those videos. We're not going to revisit that today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take this shape right here. Normally you could put these, you could run these either direction you want to, whether you want to run them up and down or right and left. I prefer to do right and left because that way the text, I don't have to be concerned about whether or not I flip the text. So I'm going to just take that little shape there, and I'm going to create an array with it and create me a couple of rows. The workspace of this machine and the way the jig's in there, I'm losing a little bit of my jig on the right edge, but that's okay. But it wouldn't have been enough to put another set of pins on anyway. So I'm going to run 2 right to left and then just stack these guys up. And I'm going to say, I think 5 up will be plenty. So that's going to give me a total. I'll be able to do a batch of 10 pins. And if I'm doing a single design, that's plenty because I don't want to have all my pins made up. In case a design doesn't sell, I don't want to have all my stock invested in that one design. I can also fix it to where I have 5 on the left and 5 on the right, each with different designs, and make that better as well. So what I'm going to do now is just hit OK. And this is the shape that is going to be burned into the jig panel for this operation. You can see in the camera right here, that little black mark is my timing mark with the tooth on the insert, the interchangeable jig panel, and this jig, so that if I do forget, where exactly I needed to line it up to make this file work, I can just simply reference that black mark that continues on both pieces. You can also see it in this camera over here. So let me go ahead and get the other camera in here, and we're going to frame this out and see how it frames. So I'm going to home the machine first. Those new lights, the camera's having a little hard time adjusting to those new lights. So maybe it'll calm down here in a minute. But I'm going to go ahead and frame that out and see how it frames on the material. And as you can see, it appears to be framing just right. Yeah, that camera's finally looks like it might be calming down a little bit. I may need to turn the lights down. So while I'm focusing, I'm going to turn the lights in there down just a little bit to see if the Logitech will cool down a little. Now, for my focusing, I will be using my handy little homemade WizMaker focusing tool. All right, now that we got that done, I'm going to frame one more time just to make sure I didn't move anything. As you can see, it is on the jig panel. Wouldn't hurt my feelings if it went up just a little bit. So I'm going to select all those guys using the arrow keys. I'm going to move it up about 4 or 5 millimeters, and frame it again so it looks like. Yeah, that gives me a little more material between the edge of those holes and the edge of the material. So I could technically go one or two more, but I think that'll be fine. The lowest part of this design is going to be the circles right here. So that's actually where it's going to be that thin at. It'll be a little thicker everywhere else. So I'm just going to confirm my cut power here. I'm going to be running this at 6 millimeters a second, 100% output in line mode. And I'm going to leave those in line mode until I get these holes cut, and then I'll be changing those. So here we go. We'll be back. Yeah, guys, you're not losing your minds. Somebody muted his microphone and forgot to unmute it. So we're going to do a voiceover on this section right here. All right, so the first step of the process, updated the overlay, and you can see there the camera's doing a pretty good job. Just got through adjusting the camera. I did have to play with the lights and kind of calm them down a little bit to kind of get things looking nice. So got all those things selected. I'll be changing those into a tool line, and the reason is I don't want to remove those cuts in case I want to reburn this file later, and also I want to be able to use those shapes in order to center the text that we're fixing to put on here. So that's become a tool now just for simply aligning the text, and when I put the jig in there I can snap a picture of it with the camera and make sure everything's lined up the way it's supposed to be before I start making any changes to the file or anything like that. All right, so the next step is, of course, to load the blanks. So I'm going to be putting the pins in there. When I put them in, I kind of put them in the hole, line them up with the little clip, and then press them left until they hit in that little point down there at the end. That way I've got every pin exactly in the same position so that I can align one set at the bottom to where I want it, and it'll continue all the way to the top because these shapes are, one directly on top of the other, and that just gives it a little more consistency through the batch. And I had to go get a couple more pins to stick in there because apparently I only took 8 with me to the machine. So got those guys in there, like I said, carefully placing the clip in my little reversible clip hole there, and then press the pins toward the pointy spot. And let's get back to light burn. All right, so here is the final stage. I'm going to update the camera overlay, and that way you can see the pins in there. To me, it's just a really helpful tool because it allows you to visualize what the text is going to look like on whatever it is that you're engraving. And so I'm just going to put the text on there, and once I get the text there, I'm going to replicate it out to the remaining pins. Using the control function, I'm then going to center align horizontally that text with the shape that I used to cut the jig holes. That way I can make sure that the text is centered on the pin. So that's kind of what we're doing right now, is I'm just trying to get the right text in there. So after a little debate with myself, I decided to go with this font. It's a pretty cool font. It's called Rock Salt, and I got it because of my Adobe subscription that I have. And so I'm going to put that in there. And to keep from trying to do math or having to manually align everything, I like to use the array function to replicate that thing out up and down. And that way I know that they're centered that on that axis at least. But once I get them kind of where they need to be, then what I'll do is I'll just manually go in, select the text, hold control, select the shape of the pin that they're going to be burned to, and horizontally center them that way, just to be confident that everything's lined up correctly. So the process is pretty simple, guys. I'm going to be doing these pins with this design, then I'm going to put another design on the other pins, and we'll get to burning. So now I've got the other text on the other ones. Going in to confirm my settings. With these bamboo pins, you know, the settings usually are vary from machine to machine depending on the dot size and everything. With this machine, I'm going to be running 120 millimeters per second, 100% output. And I'm going to go ahead and run the LPI up to 200. Anytime you're doing small text like this, I recommend that. Also, the shapes will be grouped together to do groups at once so that I'm not running the entire workspace. All the other settings are pretty much standard, nothing special to see there. But once this is laid out, it should just burn all of these pins at one time, and we'll be able to do batches of 10. So here we go, over to the laser, and going to do a little bit of an adjustment to the focus using my little focusing tool. That's actually a piece of green acrylic that I cut because I took the cover off of the Whizmaker, and it doesn't have a kickstand or anything, so I just made myself a little acrylic spacer, more or less. And you'll notice the notch in that acrylic is for if I'm wanting to cut. That lets me know that I can drop my focus down 2 millimeters to do a little better job of cutting. So back over in light burn and fixing to get it going. Having to go back and do a little voiceover on that video because someone forgot to unmute the microphone from earlier. But I'll walk you through the steps and make sure you can see what happened. And we'll just kind of navigate through that kind of quick. But I've got them laid out now and about to frame. And by framing, you can tell that the text, it's actually framing just the text. In order to get it to frame the entire pins, I would have to use the rubber band frame. But it appears that everything's going to go well. So I'm going to be running 120 and 120 millimeters per second and 100% output on these. And I will be turning on my exhaust. So let's burn these guys and see what they look like. All right, guys, there you go. Another easy project that you can add to your collection. Like I said, affordable blanks, a little bit of work, and you can turn them out pretty quick. So let's check them out, see how they turned out. So that's 10 ink pens, and if I wanted to do more, so turned out really well. I did 10 of them. Got 5 of the Chilton County, Alabama ones. There they are. And then I did 5 of the Life is Better in the Country ones. So they turned out really nice. Did not run air assist on these guys. The fan on the machine was probably more than enough to keep the soot down. So good, consistent results across every pen. So very happy with that. Now I've just got to come up with a little display to put these guys on with some pricing and stuff, because that's something that I find that I lack on is my displays. So I'm trying to work that and get that better and just trying to make for a better experience. So there you have it, guys. 10 ink pens, very minimal effort at this point now. All I got to do is load 10 more in there and hit the button. So, and I'm going to save this file with this specific design, but then I can go back and make a copy of it and just use it, just clear the text out, add different text, and just that way I don't have file creation time every time I need to re-up. So there you go, guys. Till next time, be safe. Have a good day.